Other trending news today, the New York Knicks are suing the Toronto Raptors, the Raptors head coach, and a former Knicks employee, saying the worker stole thousands of videos and other scouting secrets to give to his new employer. The lawsuit filed in Manhattan federal court seeks unspecified damages and a ban on any further spread of trade secrets compiled by the NBA team. The lawsuit claims that secrets including scouting and play frequency reports, along with a prep book and a link to valuable software, had been downloaded thousands of times by Raptors employees. The Knicks said the theft occurred in recent weeks after they alleged the Raptors hired and recruited a mole within the Knicks organization. Brock University Assistant Professor of Sport Management Taylor McKee joins us now to talk more about the details behind this alleged mole and lawsuit. Has something like this ever happened in the NBA before?
I mean, likely yes is the answer. I mean, whether or not it's been prosecuted to this level, probably not certainly in recent history. It's happened in other sports. Most recently in 2015, the St. Louis Cardinals were actually investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the United States on a similar sort of issue. This is about the deliberate intrusion of a St. Louis Cardinals employee into a Houston Astros database. It resulted in someone spending years in federal prison in the United States. So it was a fairly serious proceeding back in 2015, though that punishment was doled out in 2017. This one seems a little less serious in terms of the accusations, though it is along the same lines. You have an employee that leaves for another organization and tries to take privileged information with them when they go.
Typically, when you leave your job, you take your knowledge and skill set with you to your new place of employment. Are there clauses or rules that prevent people who work with the NBA from sharing their previous work with a new team?
That's a great question. And I think one of the ways that's important to understand this is certainly through the lens of other types of employment where there are certain non-compete clauses that are baked in a lot of employment contracts. Sometimes you have a fiduciary responsibility not to actively harm your company even for a set period of time. The difference with professional sports, and certainly with professional sports as they've evolved over the past 10 years, is that when you are assembling coaching staffs, and specifically in basketball, I think it's important to remember also just the size of coaching staffs. They're enormous. It's not just your coach and your assistant, two assistant coaches. We're talking about 6, 7, 8 people that are on a coaching staff. And in basketball, they sort of have the front row staff, as they're often referred to. Those are the coaches that are sitting right on the court side. And then you have the back row staff right behind them. And sometimes these are less known quantities. But to fill out this coaching staff, like the Raptors had to do this year, where they had to have a complete changeover of staff and they've tried a new direction, you have to bring over a lot of new people. And with these new people comes a lot of new information. And the way in which people work their way into front offices right now, a lot of it's heavily predicated on the collection of and consumption of data. And that's a big difference from, say, 20 years ago, would have been a bunch of VHS tapes and you're just, your know-how in your head. Now you're going with a large amount of data that you're taking with you. The question always becomes, okay, so if you leave that job, is that data the property of the New York Knicks in this case, or is that property of the person who assembled the data? The answer is it's the property of the New York Knicks.
And Taylor, no offense to the Knicks, but is there any gameplay worth stealing from them? They're famously a team that hasn't had much luck winning.
This is a good point. I mean, though, with glass houses with the way that the Raptors have been going of recently. But the point is that's an excellent point where, when you're looking at the St. Louis Cardinals example, I mean, that's a stranger one. If you go to baseball, though, the Cardinals hacking into the Astros is a great example where the Astros are a good team. The Cardinals are a good team. It's not necessarily about trying to steal secrets to winning any one game. It's accessing this large amount of information about players and tendencies of coaches who are going to keep moving around. And so while the Knicks themselves might not have any special trade secrets that are allowing them to win games that, you're trying to steal the special sauce of. So yeah, it's not really Knicks specific because it's a good point. I mean, wouldn't you want to be stealing from the Golden State Warriors or a team that has a larger track record of success? It's more about how much information you're able to obtain from personnel that you're able to recruit.
Thanks so much for joining us, Professor McKee.
Thanks so much for having me, Kelly.